As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this Clayton Town Council meeting to order. I ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the many blessings of this day. And we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in your great name we pray. Amen. All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I want to add a note under introductions and special presentations, introduction of our new deputy town manager, Dolores Gill, as 5B. And we would like to move 6D up to 6A on the agenda under public hearings.
Trade D for A.
Yes.
Gotcha. And put A at the last.
In the order, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right, up next is your consent agenda.
Move we approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Grace. All right, up next are the introductions and special presentations, starting with introduction of employees. And our first presenter is Joy Garrison from the library.
Mayor and Council, I'm excited to introduce Grace Davis to you. She's our new Youth Services Supervisor. She's coming to us from Virginia Beach, and she was a programming librarian there. She will be in charge of all of our children's programs, our collections. She has a small children's staff that she'll supervise, and she's already making our lives better and more colorful and exciting. We're really excited to have her. So, Grace.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. As Joy said, I come from Virginia Beach, where my background is in library programming, especially STEAM, STEM, and art programming. And before that, I did children's theater education and in-school residencies, which was a lot of fun to do puppet shows for kids all day long. I moved to Clayton about a month ago, and I'm very excited to make it my new home. Everyone's been very welcome. Thank you.
That's awesome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ann Game, Utilities and Billing Director. You know, when you meet somebody, you know they're going to be a good part of your team. Well, when I interviewed Eva Capabianco, who joined us back in December, I knew we had a winner on my team. Eva comes to us with utilities experience and banking experience, which is critical in my department. Eva worked in utilities and wanted to stay in the crazy field, so that might say something. But I want to welcome Eva and introduce her to you.
Hello, I'm Eva Capobianco, and I am very happy to be here. I truly appreciate the opportunity. I love working with Ann and my new team, and I hope to be here for many more years to come.
That's wonderful. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes, we're going to help you work on your Southern accent, and you're going to help us with Spanish.
Yes.
We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, and JD?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, if you remember back on September 1, when I first took this job as interim, one of the things I thought, and I've worked for the town for a long time, that we needed 2 deputy town managers. At the time we had Nancy Medlin, but one of the things I did when I first came in was say we need to elevate Rich Coppola based on the amount of infrastructure we had and the amount of budget stuff we had. So Rich is one of our town managers. Nancy, as everybody knows, retired at Thanksgiving. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Dolores Gill as our other new Deputy Town Manager. We're really lucky to have Dolores. She's spent a career and ended up in Director of Operations for Johnston County Schools, so we're very fortunate. She's done everything from IT, from communications to facilities to capital programs, to even at one point for 5 years being the principal at West Clayton Elementary. So she definitely knows Clayton and the community. And Dolores, I will give it to you to say a few words.
Thank you for that introduction. I want to say that I'm absolutely delighted to be here for my first council meeting. I've had the chance to meet and talk to most of you this evening. I want to let you know that after 30 years in the school system, I was not finished wanting to serve, and I am absolutely so thrilled to be able to serve the town of Clayton. This has been my home since 1996. It was my first principalship. It is near and dear to my heart, and my children have grown up here, and this is my second home. My original home is Beaufort County in Little Washington, if you know where that is. But again, I want to say to you that it is an absolute honor to be able to serve the town of Clayton, and I am going to learn as quickly as I can to be able to do all I can for you all. So thank you again, and it's been a wonderful first day and a great warm welcome from everyone here. So thanks again.
Thank you. Welcome, Dolores. All right, so we're going to jump into our public hearing, and our first public hearing this evening is 2020-142 A&X Buckhorn Branch.
Good evening, Samantha Woolen, Waiver Planning Director. This is the annexation for the Buckhorn Branch property. This is a plan development that came through council about a year ago, and they are currently under their construction drawing phase and minor subdivisions. And this is a request to annex the property. It is approximately 84 acres, and it is near the vicinity of Irish Street and US Highway 70 business. And that is the request for tonight. Now I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments for staff? All right, so this has been noted as a public hearing, and anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please step forward and state your name for the record. All right, no one wishing to speak. I will close the public hearing and turn it over to council for their deliberation. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2021-03-03 Buckhorn Branch annexation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adoption of the ordinance. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, sign. Motion carries. So we are good to go into the quasi-judicial?
Yeah.
Okay. The next item on the public hearing is item 2020-144 SD Ashcroft 2. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, and I will turn it over to the attorney for an explanation for everyone on the quasi-judicial process.
Mayor, excuse me, we will need to do the rezoning first and then the quasi-judicial, please. 2020-113-PDD.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had that one down for the last since we changed the last one to the
Sorry.
first. No, it's fine. I'll recall the item. So up next, our next public hearing will be 2020-133 PDD Ashcroft 2.
Good evening, Samantha Willen, Waiver Planning Director. Again, and this is the beginning of multiple different applications for the Ashcroft 2 proposal. It is a subdivision located off of O'Neill Street near the Neuse River. Just for referencing, it is across O'Neill Street from Steeplechase Meadows. And the request for this rezoning is a planned development rezoning. The request is to rezone from RE and PDR to PDMU. And PDMU is planned development mixed use designation. The property is approximately 256 plus or minus acres. The current zoning map, as you can see, it is RE and PDR, and the plan is for this to be a planned development mixed use designation. And it is partially in the watershed protection. So I want to go over the consistency and compatibility. The rezoning is inconsistent with a future land use map as low-density residential. It is just a tad above what a low-density residential development would be. But staff does support the rezoning due to the proximity to higher density designations and the future northern connector. As you all know, we are working on updating the comprehensive plan. So I do see, even before this subdivision came through, that it would be something that the density designation would change. It would be medium density residential. So that is one of the reasons behind the staff supported of the rezoning. And if this is approved tonight, the future land use map would automatically be updated accordingly. And then there will be a neighborhood center designation, and that would be, so the mixed use development part, they are proposing a commercial component of this subdivision. And so the rezoning would be medium density residential and neighborhood center. Planning Board recommended the approval of this rezoning, and staff also recommends approval for the rezoning. And this will be something that we will have the public hearing for this one, and then move into the subdivision, the master plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for staff on rezoning? All right, hearing none, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on the public hearing as it pertains to the rezoning, please step forward and state your name for the record.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Cindy Schwarzkopf with Stewart, 223 Southwest Street, Suite 1100 in Raleigh, and I'm pleased to be here this evening to discuss the plan development rezoning for Ashcroft 2.0. I want to briefly detail our team that's here this evening. Some are here with us in chambers and others in the lobby if there's any questions. From Riverwild, we have Reed Smith, the founder, Development Director Dave DeYoung. From Kimley Horne, we have our traffic engineer, Travis Flewitt. From Stewart, again, I'm Cindy Schwarzkopf, and we have Tim Somerville, who is our civil engineer, Mike Tarrant, who's a landscape architect, Toby Coleman with Smith Anderson is the attorney, and Kevin Martin with SNEC is with Soil and Environmental Consultants. And I just want to briefly go through the rezoning request. I want to thank staff and Samantha specifically for detailing the request for you this evening. We're requesting to rezone just under 255 acres of land from residential estate and planned development residential to a planned development mixed use designation. We held a neighborhood meeting on September 3rd. There were 4 attendees. No opposition was noted. We've not heard from any adjacent property owners regarding the rezoning. On September 28th, the case was heard in front of the Planning Board, and the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval to Town Council. And I think this is important to rezone this property to mixed use because it does provide opportunities for a master plan residential community that contains a needed mixture of housing types, including associated amenities with appropriate perimeter buffering and open space in accord with the UDC. Briefly want to read into the record for you what we heard the night of the September 28th from the planning board related to this case. From Frank Price, a prior planning board member, this certainly is compatible with the development already in Ashcroft, plus adding a commercial tract, so the requested mixed use is in line with what it needs to be. Andrea Merritt, the planning board chairwoman. I do like that the mixed use gives flexibility. You can come up with creative problem solving and phase and build around what is in demand at that time. I like that part of it as well. And from Marty Bizzle, to plan a 200-acre parcel like that is truly the epitome of a mixed-use development and could be a real asset, and the zoning is necessary to make this happen. This offers something for everyone: starter homes, apartments, estate homes, as well as commercial and significant piece of the Northern Connector dedication, which will benefit many in the community. The zoning gives applicants and developers the ability to do things they could not otherwise do. I'm very pleased with this. So we were very pleased, of course, to get a unanimous recommendation for approval from the planning board. And now I'd like to briefly go through the rezoning approval criteria for you. Number one, consistency with adopted plans of the town. Samantha noted that the plan is generally consistent with the future land use map. Staff is comfortable with the proposed PDMU. I would like to note that low-density residential, according to the Clayton comp plan, is 3 units per acre. This proposed density is 3.03 units per acre, so we're just a smidge over that 3.0 units per acre reference. Consistent with the comp plan 2040 goals and objectives, I'd like to read the 2040 plan vision, because we really believe that this plan, and we tried very hard to make sure that our development matches this vision. The community envisions a place where neighbors are able to safely walk and bike, a downtown that offers a variety of activities and opportunities for people to live, create, shop, and eat, businesses that are successful and growing, a system of parks and greenways that connect people and places to nature and the Neuse River, and neighborhoods with a variety of living options. Also, this is in accord with the growth plan update that is currently underway with the town, specifically thinking about land use and housing. Housing, encourage a variety of housing types with prices ranging from executive housing to townhomes and apartments, looking to meet all of the needs of the citizens of Clayton. Suitability of the project for uses permitted by the current versus the proposed district. The existing zoning category allows for low-density residential uses and select complementary non-residential uses. As I mentioned before, 3.0 units per acre. Rezoning to a PDMU with just over 3.03 units per acre, provides the opportunity for a master plan neighborhood containing a mixture of residential housing types, associated recreational amenities, and commercial development. And just, to talk a little bit more about consistency with adopted plans of the town, we have quite a few of the comp plan goals that we meet, and I will just mention a few of them tonight. Objective LU 1.1, encourage developments which incorporate high-quality design and enhance the quality of life for existing and future residents of the town. Goal LU2, encourage quality development, which maximizes existing infrastructure, promotes walking and biking, and enhances travel safety. Strategy LU 2.1.4, require development to integrate sidewalks internally and provide pedestrian connections. And goal H1, encourage a range of housing types and lot sizes that meet the needs of various income levels, family sizes, and ages. Moving on to number 3, whether the proposed change tends to improve the balance of uses or meet specific needs in the town. Again, rezoning to the PDMU provides for a master planned neighborhood. It does give us the ability to do a variety of housing types, everything from the apartments to the townhomes to estate-sized lots. We're able to do a variety of amenities, provide open space, and even a commercial component that's really essential and important to this part of town. Number 4, the capacity of adequate public facilities and services, including schools, roads, recreation facilities, wastewater treatment, potable water supply, and stormwater drainage facilities is available for the proposed use. I just wanted to note that town and water, sewer infrastructure, and capacity are available, and allocation will be phased as outlined in the development agreement. TIA was prepared and approved by NCDOT Congestion Management. Required roadway improvements will be constructed, which will improve existing levels of service. As I mentioned earlier, recreational facilities will be provided for residents. Recreation and open space fees, as well as system development fees, will be paid for each residential unit, and stormwater control devices will be installed. Also wanted to note that Johnson County schools are notified during the TRC process. And as you all are aware, Thanksgiving Elementary School is supposed to be opening in the fall of this year, and that's going to help alleviate overcrowding at Riverwood, Corinth Holders, and Riverdale Elementary. So the school system is apprised of new projects coming through. Number 5, it's been determined that the legal purposes for which zoning exists are not violated. No legal concerns or issues have been identified. And number 6, it's been determined that there will be no adverse effect upon adjoining property owners unless such effect can be justified by the overwhelming public good or welfare. The proposed mixed-use rezoning is associated with a master plan, which you'll hear in the following case, that outlines the permitted uses. This is a residential to residential rezoning. Residential uses will abut the existing residential with appropriate buffering in accord to UDC guidelines. The commercial pod will be located along Covered Bridge and adjacent to the northern connector. Our proposed density is 3.03 units per acre, and again, as I've mentioned earlier, we're consistent with the Comp Plan 2040 and the Growth Plan update. And number 7, it's been determined that no one property owner or small group of property owners will benefit materially from the change to the detriment of the general public. The site is already partially zoned a planned development district, PDR, and it's adjacent to 2 planned developments, Ashcroft 1 to the south, and the recently approved Steeplechase development across O'Neill. The proposed density of 3.03 units per acre is consistent with this adjacent density. It's consistent with the Comp Plan 2040 and the Growth Plan update. And as Samantha noted, and I referenced earlier in the presentation, the proposed rezoning is generally consistent with the future land use map, and staff has recommended approval. With that, that ends my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Awesome. Questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Cindy.
Sure.
Anyone else wish to speak on this matter? To speak, I'll close the public hearing and I'll turn it over to the council for their deliberation.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Mr.
In
Bond.
regards to the agenda versus the ordinance case number, they don't match. Should they, or is this how it's supposed to be? This is right?
That's correct. That's an ordinance that you're going to be adopting for the rezoning. So
Okay.
that's the ordinance number, not the case number.
Okay, just verifying.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, after considering the recommendations of the Planning Board and Planning Director, I move to approve case 2020-113-PDD Ashcroft 2, and to approve the statement of consistency and reasonableness included in the agenda packet.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Just for clarification on the record, is it okay that he stated it that way and didn't say the adoption of 2021-0301?
That's fine.
It's all, okay, just double checking. All right, so we have a motion and a second for approval, adoption of the ordinance. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Up next will be the 2020-114 SD Ashcroft 2 quasi-judicial, and I will turn it over to the attorney for a briefing on the quasi-judicial process.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I know you have done a number of these before. I think this is the first one we've done since I've been sitting back here, but the process is quasi-judicial, as you indicated, which means certain court rules and due process procedures apply. This is a major subdivision plan, and your ordinance requires that type of process for a major subdivision plan. The distinction between a quasi-judicial proceeding and a legislative proceeding is you really don't have the discretion with the quasi-judicial proceeding. Due process rules apply. The opportunity to cross-examine witnesses. Witnesses are generally sworn and testify under oath. You also have to make findings of fact Those findings have to be based on substantial, competent material evidence. I see that work is done by your staff. There are sample findings in your materials for your consideration. Those are not binding on you, but those are there for your consideration as you hear the evidence and make your decision. I think that covers it. Is that what you're looking for tonight?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so.
Questions come up, I'm back here.
Thank you, sir. So anyone who is going to speak on the record on this, please stand and be sworn in by the clerk.
Heidi. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
When you come up to offer your testimony, you will see a sign-in sheet. If when you come up to offer your testimony, you fill it in at that time, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Good evening, Samantha Waiver again, Planning Director, and this is the master plan portion of the Ashcroft 2 development. The way that our code considers it is called a preliminary plat acting as a master plan. And the master plan is proposed to be a plan development mixed use, which that's rezoning just passed, and it's to develop up to 105,000 square feet of commercial development and up to 772 residential units. The acreage of the property is approximately 256 plus or minus acres. And again, it is along North O'Neill Street, right at the river, Moose River. This is a copy of the overall site plan. All this is located in your packets. And as stated previously, there is a total of 772 residential units. There's going to be 5 different housing types between multiple different lot sizes, and then townhomes and apartments. So there is different single-family housing types as well as townhomes and then apartments. And the density is 3.03 units an acre. And the lots near the river, those are estate lots. Most of those are at least half an acre. So that is important to note. And the road in between, I'll go over this in the transportation slide some, but that is the proposed northern connector. And you can see here that they are proposing to construct a portion of that northern connector. So I'm going to go a little more detail about the single family and the townhome products. There's proposed to be 293 single family lots, 299 townhomes, and 180 apartment units. And again, the lot sizes will range from around 4,100 square feet to approximately half an acre, which would be 21,780 square feet. And all driveways will have to be set back at least 25 feet from the back of sidewalk. And if there is no sidewalk, that would be from the right of way from the property line. And that is to ensure adequate storage for vehicles in their own property. And the apartments are actually located adjacent to the commercial pod. So the apartments are going to be in the brown. And then the tan color is the townhomes. And the remaining colors will be the single family. And the commercial portion is along North O'Neill Street. And I apologize, I don't have a laser, which... These are the townhome architectural standards. There are 4 different design options, and the final architectural elevations will be provided at the minor site plan level. So moving forward, if this is approved tonight, any further processes will be done administratively through the TRC process, which is the Technical Review Committee. And again, the design standards outlined in between any 4 of these examples would be masonry, vinyl, or fiber cement siding. And this is the commercial pod. So some example of permitted uses are a cafe, an office, restaurant, retail, sales, daycare facility, fitness, recreation center, and there also are some prohibited uses: outdoor storage, vehicle sales. Things with that would be inconsistent to a neighborhood business type model. And again, these are some architectural standards, and the final elevations and architectural features will be determined at the individual site plan level for the commercial pod. All final uses are listed in the developer's agreement. That is, will be heard under a different item tonight. So again, this is not inclusive of all the uses. Those uses are listed in your developer's agreement. The open space and amenities, so there's approximately 72 of the 256 acres that is provided as open space. 7.19 acres of that will be active. And so active open space is usually something that's not just a passive field. It can be anything from a dog park, top lot, pool, the amenity center, bocce ball courts, any of those types of things. And again, those open space areas will be reviewed at the minor subdivision phase level and individual site plans. And all of this does meet the minimum standards of the UDC. This is a phasing plan. As you can see, Ashcroft 1 is an existing subdivision. There will be an access point into Ashcroft 2 through Ashcroft 1. And the plan is to begin with phase 1 and then move through the next sequential phases. Phase 9 is the commercial pod. Phase 10 is the apartments. Phase 7 would be your townhomes. Phase 8 is also the townhomes. Phase 5 and 6 will be your estate lots, the portion near the river, and then the portion along the northern connector. Those are a little bit smaller lots. And then phase 3 and 2 are single family, and 4 will be townhomes as well. And that's shown further in your packet. I just want to go over the phasing so everyone is aware of how it would be constructed. So traffic improvements, according to the TIA and the proposed build-out, the build-out is scheduled for 2030. The daily trips are generated to be at 12,282. And as you can see, the AM and the PM peak. And there was 2 different scenarios provided by NCDOT, the Division Office of Congestion Management, and because that depends on when Cover Bridge Road is going to be realigned. So scenario 1 is required, those are the requirements if Cover Bridge Road realignment is not completed. And scenario 2 is if it is completed by the time that this project is underway and reaches that segment. So scenario 1, it points out the 2 different, the improvements that would be necessary. And again, this is also in your packet. And this is if the Cover Bridge Road realignment is not completed. And this would be scenario 2 if the realignment is completed prior to build out. So the realignment will line up with the northern connector when that will hopefully be built, and that is the different for the 2 scenarios. It's because they won't line up, so. You can see the Cover Bridge Road and the Cover Bridge realignment in this map right there, and that is the reason for the 2 different scenarios, because it'd be 2 different requirements. Other improvements, turn lanes required on O'Neill Street, and then restrapping of the right turn lane on Main Street. So there are 2 waiver requests for this one, or technically 1, because sidewalks not required on those estate lots because they're greater than 20,000 square feet. And I know we're thinking, oh, we just passed the code and waivers are not in the code anymore. Well, this application was submitted early fall, late summer last year. So it is going through under the old code, as we call it. So this plan development does still have waivers. They're allowed to use waivers, permit choice. They're continuing with the code that they've been under review this whole time. So curb and gutter is not proposed in roads 5 and 11. And again, that is the estate section. They are also not doing sidewalk because our code does not require sidewalk. And we talked about this through TRC and the town engineering department and planning, and everyone was on board with the ditch sections. The town would not be required to maintain any of that infrastructure for any of the swales, and that is also located in the developer's agreement as far as who is required to do the maintenance on those. And the applicant is subject to the findings of fact for these waivers, but the town does support the waivers and think that it is ideal for roads 5 and 11. And the waiver would be not to have curb and gutter, and there will be no sidewalks, but the sidewalk is not required because of the lot size. So we went over this just a little bit in the rezoning, but again, the staff does support the rezoning to plan development mixed use, as well as the medium density residential and the neighborhood center. As far as quasi judicial, we do not make recommendations on each part of the master plan. But since the rezoning was passed, the land use map has been updated, and it is technically medium-density residential and neighborhood center. And the findings of fact are in your packet as well. And if approved, staff does recommend the conditions of approval be placed upon the preliminary plat. And those conditions of approval are located in your packet as well as in the developer's agreement. There is an associated developer's agreement, which is the next item on the agenda, and it has more information that we will present at that time. I have listed the conditions out here. I will not read through each of them, but a lot of them are dealing with just general conditions, no mid-block phasing, as in they can't stop and build halfway through a street, or halfway through a block, excuse me. And then related to recreation amenities, landscaping, fee in lieu for anything that will not be constructed. This is related to all of the traffic improvements and the timing of those. And that is all that I have, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Samantha,
Yes, sir.
is the developer agreeing to all these conditions?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right. If none, excuse me, if no other questions or comments for staff, we will begin with the hearing from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Reed Smith, 114 West Main Street. 114 West Main Street. We appreciate everyone being here tonight to hear this. During this COVID time, protocol is difficult and whatnot, and I just commend the town's efforts on allowing these meetings to continue and the efforts that have gone through. We thank you very much for continuing to do the business of the town of Clayton. So we're excited to be here. We've been working on this project for over a year. We think it's going to be a great asset and addition to the town. And have enjoyed the process going through with the planning board and hearing their comments, as well as town staff and our approach and how we went about planning for this project. First, just a little bit about us, Ashcroft Partners LLC. We are all locally owned and operated businesses. I myself own 127 Homes, which will be a builder in this subdivision, as well as West End Homes, Robert Stanley, and Weaver Homes, Frank Weaver, and Dustin Blackwell, as well as Hometown Realty, James Lipscomb and Barry Woodard. So we're all just hometown guys trying to develop in our hometown. Tonight, I do want to introduce and read into the record our expert witnesses as well as their qualifications. It'll take me just a minute. So first, we have Dave DeYoung, Director of Development with Riverwild. Dave DeYoung is an AICP certified planner. He has been that for 21 years with 27 years of experience working with both the public sector and the private sector. Next, we have Kevin Martin. Kevin is the co-founder and principal at Soil and Environmental Consultants, PA. Kevin is right here. His professional licenses include NC licensed soil scientist, as well as professional wetland scientist. His education has a Bachelor of Science in Conservation, Soil Science concentration from NC State University, as well as a Master of Science in Soil Science and a Civil Engineering minor from NC State University. Next, we have Cindy Swarfcall, who you have heard from already. Cindy has over 27 years of planning, 23 as an AICP certified planner. That experience is in municipal coordination and project management. As both a local government planner and consultant, she understands the unique needs of both private and government clients and continues to serve as principal in charge and client relationship manager to ensure that Stewart delivers highly successful projects. Next, we have Tim Somerville. who is a PE. Tim serves as the Director of Civil Engineering for Stewart's Durham offices. Tim, sorry I'm not introduced, that's Tim. Y'all have heard from Cindy. Tim is a registered professional engineer in North Carolina with over 18 years of experience in both public and private sectors. He has spent the last 14 years working in the Triangle and surrounding areas. Tim has worked on residential, commercial, and institutional projects that include surveying, construction, inspection, water and sewer design, stormwater analysis and design, site design, and roadway improvement design. Travis Flewitt is here. Travis is our senior transportation engineer from Crimley Horne. Travis has over 17 years of experience performing traffic studies for hundreds of public and private sector developments across the state. He also performs traffic capacity analysis for NCDOT and municipal projects, signal timing studies, and traffic signal warrant analysis. We also have with us tonight Toby Coleman, who is our attorney from Smith Anderson. I tender all these witnesses as experts. Next, we'll go through a project overview. Cindy touched on a lot of this in the rezoning, but we're going to go through the preliminary plat and master plan on the next slide. Our neighborhood meeting was held on September 3rd. We had four attendees, no opposition. To date, our team has not heard of any opposition on the project. We've received no calls or letters to address concerns for the project. And we had a planning board meeting on September 28th, and there was unanimous recommendation made for approval. As for the project, we're really excited about this project. When we approached this land accumulation, there was a lot of different ways we could go about it. Density was not the goal square away. I think those days are gone in municipal development. And we really got to the drawing board and said, okay, we need to approach this as being a development that can serve everyone that would consider in the town of Clayton. And since then, you know, Cindy went over this in the rezoning, and I mean, the Clayton Growth Plan update and the 2040 plan vision really summarizes what we were trying to do here. Housing, we were trying to encourage a variety of housing types with prices ranging from executive housing to townhomes and apartments. That's language in the Clayton Growth Plan. Our development here incorporates all of that. And then the 2040 plan vision, the community envisions a place where neighbors are able to safely walk and bike, a downtown that offers a variety of activities and opportunities for people to live, create, shop, and eat. Businesses that are successful and growing, and a system of park and greenways that connect people and places to nature and the Neuse River, and neighborhoods with a variety of living options. And we feel like this neighborhood tries its best to accomplish all of those goals. We have a variety of housing types. You can see all the color in this chart that kind of distinguishes between where the different housing types are. We address lot sizes in the square footage range of 4,200, which would focus more on workforce development housing, all the way up to over an acre size lots out towards the river, which would address executive type housing. And we're just excited to be able to offer that different variety type to future residences of the town of Clayton, and really have a diverse development that could handle any type of resident that would be coming to the neighborhood, not just, you know, especially in the executive section, just going in and densifying the area and not offering that type of housing. We feel this is unique. I'm not sure the town has seen a 1 acre size lot in the city limits come before you, but we're proud of that and are excited. We think those are going to be special places to live, overlooking the river and back there between the buffers and all the nature. We're excited about that development pattern. Secondly, we would talk about the commercial space. We feel that's a huge need. There's no commercial activity. If you go from Pritchard Road and Cover Bridge all the way to downtown Main Street, there's really no commercial options. And we feel this will serve a great need in this area, as well as add economy to this area and potential residents to have businesses or work or have jobs, and that it goes with the residences that we've proposed here. Then lastly, and probably most important, is quality of life for these citizens who will be living in this neighborhood. First, I'll point out the green, kind of lime green areas. Those are the improved open space areas. And you can see we've incorporated pockets of that into the various residential pods to provide active green space, for people to use. But then also we have put in I'm gonna go back to the right, you'll see the big green area to the right side, and that will be an active amenity that we will build, similar and comparable to what you would see at Lionsgate or Riverwood. Components of those amenities obviously first have recreation, fitness room, or some sort of fitness activity area. Secondly, followed by water, some sort of pool or splash pad or something of that nature, and then other green space or activities such as dog waste stations, walking paths, etc. So we're excited about the amenity, and for the residences and for the existing residents of Ashcroft to have an on-site amenity that they can use. As well as, I'll go back, we have an extensive internal trail network of sidewalks, and then also connecting and installing trails to the Mountain to Sea Trail, which will completely interconnect the Ashcroft subdivision to both sides of the Mountain to Sea Trail. So we've been very intentional with the amenities in this neighborhood, trying to invest in the quality of life of the future residents, and are excited to present that to you tonight. A few other pieces of information. We feel like this neighborhood will also be beneficial for the town of Clayton as a whole. Putting some rough calculations just to the rooftops, we're estimating the 592 single-family rooftops just in these numbers. At the current recreation fees at $2,000 a piece, we would estimate that would be $1.5 million at project completion that would go into the town of Clayton's rec program, in addition to the on-site amenities and trails that we will be building. On the same number of units, at the current SDF fees of around $5,000, we would estimate almost $3 million going in system impact fees for improvement in infrastructure to the town of Clayton. Those are significant. We also have customer choice in this area, whether we go with Duke Progress or Clayton. We will choose to go with Town of Clayton, so it will also offer a significant amount of customers for the town's electric program, which is a positive. And then roughly counting the annual tax base for the town of Clayton upon project completion on just the single-family units, we're estimating somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000 at today's current tax rates that the town would receive in tax basis perpetually for this neighborhood upon project completion. So that's a significant contribution to the town of Clayton from a tax standpoint. All right, next, we're going to go through our approval criteria, followed by our findings of fact. The approval criteria was submitted in our application and is also in your packets. However, I'm going to formally read them into the record. Our experts are here for questions if you have any specifics on these, and we'll get to those at the end. Criteria number one, and bear with me because there's a lot of them. The first criteria is the compliance with 155-203 and all other applicable requirements of this chapter. This master plan includes a comprehensive set of design guidelines consistent with the plan development district standards of the UDC and provides a coordinated mixture of uses as outlined in the master plan. Criteria number two, the consistency with the Clayton General Design Guidelines. This adheres to the general design guidelines. High-quality materials will be incorporated into commercial buildings as provided in the master plan's design guidelines. Number three, conformance of the proposal with the stated purpose of the requested plan development district. 155.203L states the purpose of PDMU is to encourage coordinated mixed-use development, and the master plan includes a mixture of residential unit types and commercial development. Criteria number 4, the compatibility of the proposed development with the adjacent community. Ashcroft 1 is located directly to the south, includes a mixture of housing unit types similar to ours. Future Steeplechase is located across Covered Bridge Road, which also includes a mixture of housing types. Criteria number 5, the quality of design intended for each component of the project and the ability of the overall development plan to ensure a unified, cohesive environment at full build-out. Commercial was purposefully located along Covered Bridge Road and the future northern connector. Residential pods are well thought out with lower densities adjacent to the Neuse River and higher densities adjacent to the commercial uses and sidewalk connectivity and shared amenities. Criteria number 6, compatible relationships between each component of the overall project. The location and design of each project component was based on compatibility. I didn't go to this one, sorry. Compatibility with the surrounding adjacent uses as well as the compatibility of the internal uses. Criteria number 7, self-sufficiency of each phase of the overall project. The overall project has been designed and coordinated with the town to ensure self-sufficiency and available public facilities. Criteria number 8, documentation that the proposed infrastructure improvements accommodate the additional impacts caused by the development, or documentation to assure that the development as proposed will not overtax the existing public infrastructure systems. Traffic impacts have been evaluated and will be addressed during construction. The development will be phased to ensure adequate public infrastructure will be in place to meet the project demands. Criteria number 9, the fiscal impact of the proposal and the proposed financing of required improvements. The development will pay all required SDFs, system development fees, and recreation fees to the town of Clayton. All required traffic improvements will be performed by the developer. Criteria number 10, the success of the proposal in providing adequate pedestrian and bicycle links within the development and with the adjacent community. The development will provide a sidewalk network throughout the development as well as greenway connections from the project to existing greenways. Sidewalk will connect residences to the commercial pod and connect the existing Ashcroft 1 subdivision to the south. Criteria number 11, the effectiveness with which the proposal protects and preserves the ecologically sensitive areas within the development. The development is partially located in the watershed protection overlay and has been designed to minimize impacts on the ecologically sensitive areas. Resource conservation areas are being protected. Slopes greater than 25% or 5,000 square foot in area with 200 of a buffered stream, within 100 of a floodway, or within 50 of an unbuffered stream are considered steep slopes and are protected with no more than 15% of these areas being disturbed. Those were the answers to all of our criteria. Sorry, that was a lot, but that's our burden of proof. Next, we'll be going to our findings of fact. Our findings of fact were addressed as part of the application process, and you should also have those in your packet. We will now, for the record, bring up our experts to testify to these findings of fact. They will also be available for questions if you have any after they testify. Cindy, you want to come on up? All right, our first finding of fact is consistency with the adopted plans of the policies of the town. Cindy, do you believe that this subdivision is consistent with the adopted plans and the policies of the town of Clayton?
Yes, it's in accord with the comp plan and the growth plan update.
Tim. Finding of fact number 2, the subdivision meets all required specifications of this chapter. Cindy, do you believe, in your professional opinion, that the subdivision meets all the required specifications of this chapter?
Yes, I do. The subdivision does meet all the requirements of the UDC.
Tim, do you believe that this subdivision meets all the required specifications of this chapter?
Yes, I do, and the waiver from curb and gutter is appropriate for stormwater management in this section.
All right, our finding of fact number 3. The subdivision will not be detrimental to the use or orderly development of other properties in the surrounding area and will not violate the character of existing standards for development of properties in the surrounding area. Cindy, do you agree that this subdivision complies and meets finding fact number 3?
Yes, I do. It's a residential to residential project.
Travis. All right, number 4, the subdivision design will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area, will provide for the unified and orderly use of or extension of the public infrastructure, and will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or the general welfare. Travis, do you believe that this subdivision meets finding of fact number 4?
Yes, I do. I prepared the traffic impact analysis.
Yeah, thank you, because we're getting some information that the crowd cannot hear you, so into the microphone. Yeah,
I'm going to keep it on, but I'll speak loudly and clearly as I can.
thank you.
Yes, I do. I prepared the traffic impact analysis that is included in the council report, and I believe that it's a true and accurate representation of my report.
Tim, do you believe that the subdivision is consistent and adheres to finding of fact number 4?
Yes, the public infrastructure will be phased so that it doesn't impact the town's existing infrastructure.
Thank you. Sorry about that, but that's the process. So those are our answers to our findings of fact and criteria. We had more lengthy answers to that are in your packets, but didn't want to go through everything that is in your packet, so we went through the high points here. We appreciate your consideration and are ready for any questions or comments you may have at this time.
All right, any questions or comments from council at this time? Mr. Granis.
I first have several questions regarding the TIA. So if we could have the traffic engineer up, that would be beneficial. I'm doing this for 2 reasons, one for the record and the other for the general public. With respect to the Ashcroft entry, both Ashcroft 2 and Ashcroft 1, could you be specific about what improvements will be performed on North O'Neill Street at those particular entryways? It's in here. So, just to be clear, when you say Ashcroft 1, are you referring to the existing Atwood Drive? I'm not sure that that's the name of the particular entryway, but if it's adjacent to the trailhead parking, the answer is yes. Okay. There are no proposed improvements at that intersection. That intersection already has left and right turn lanes on O'Neill Street and a very wide driveway. It's not striped as 2 separate lanes, but the access onto O'Neill Street is wide enough for 2 vehicles to sit side by side, turning left and right. I'll take off one mask, that'll help. The other access point, there are 3 other access points for the site. The southern driveway will also have left and right turn lanes on O'Neill Street and left and right turn lanes exiting the site. The second one is a right in, right out driveway, which will have a right turn lane on O'Neill Street. And then the third driveway, the Covered Bridge Road extension, the laneage depends on whether Covered Bridge Road is realigned by the steeplechase development to tie in across. But again, we'll also have left and right turn lanes on O'Neill Street, and then left and right turn lanes exiting the site. And will that intersection with O'Neill and Covered Bridge be protected in any way? An example would be a 4-way stop, a light, or some other mechanism? Yes, eventually that intersection will be signalized. NCD, it depends on whether the extension, whether Covered Bridge aligns with that or not, and DOT has said that the traffic volumes must be in place before they will install a signal. And do you have an estimate of when that may be in terms of what year? Without the realignment of Covered Bridge, no, I do not. When that realignment is put in, it will be when that realignment is put in.
Estimated date for that realignment to be put in?
To my knowledge, that is being done by the Steeplechase Development, and I do not know the exact timing of their project.
Okay. It's mentioned in the packet that you will be doing, take some responsibility for the North Connector with respect to construction costs. Could you elaborate on that with respect to how much of a segment are we talking about in comparison to the entire segment?
We will be putting in first off, we'll be dedicating the entire, the right-of-way for the entire North Connector. We will be putting in.
If I may interrupt, what does that mean in terms of, let's say, mileage or square footage or linear footage?
I'm gonna need to get
just ballpark.
I'm gonna need to get an engineer up here to give you that answer. Can I explain the rest while they're looking for that? The portion we'll be connecting to is at the bottom part of O'Neill Street, because we're going to need access into the kind of orangish phase to the top, and so we'll be connecting the gray lines towards the connection to the orange portion for the phase up top.
Okay. If I may, will that be 2-lane or 4-lane? That's a 4-lane divided highway ultimately. Is that a 2-lane or 4-lane?
I believe we're putting in 2 required lanes in either direction.
Very good.
And is the right-of-way going to be wide enough to accommodate 4 lanes in the future?
Sir.
And just out of curiosity, why only 2 lanes?
Honestly, because that's what we're required to access our development. The 4-lane section, I think, would be part of the bigger overall project for the Northern Connector, which will probably be accomplished in a lap project or something of that nature in the future. Will be much more substantial.
And what would the timeline be where that would be constructed?
There's a phasing schedule in your packet, as also in the developer's agreement, which cites the phase of that kind of orange area, and that date is in there. I believe it is 2023.
In the areas where you're requesting a waiver with respect to curb, gutter, and sidewalk, could you explain to us why you would prefer to do swales versus curb, gutter, and sidewalk?
Absolutely. When we chose to go into that executive type section, we really wanted it to feel like being a little bit more in the county. Most subdivisions that are have that type of open space on a lot, have that open space swale type feel, and that that infrastructure would not be necessary. Also, it's an environmental consideration. Number one, it would increase our impervious area to put that type of infrastructure in when a swale on a lot that big will suffice. And also being that close to the Neuse River, we thought that would be a great alternative way to filter the water into the ground with the size of the lots they're able to do so. We just feel like for the future citizens that'll be living there, that's the type of neighborhood and environmental contribution that they would expect to live in.
And what would the road width be in those areas?
Tim, he's looking up your last engineering question. The Northern Connector dedication will be about 4,500 linear feet of dedication.
Okay, well, let me regress. I'm concerned more about the road width of the estate lots.
Okay.
The road width where the estate lots will be located.
Road width, it's a 24-foot ribbon paved road with ditches, swales on both sides, and then up to the property line.
The reason I raise that question is, and this is an assumption on my part, but I would assume if you have estate homes, you're going to have a lot of visitors for various and sundry reasons, and I'm concerned about where are those people going to park. Do you have an answer for that?
Councilman Granis, I mean, they're going to have adequate space in their driveways and on the half acre to an acre that they're going to own. I think those type of questions would have more consideration on our smaller lots at 4,200 and 6,000 square feet. There's adequate acreage for, beyond adequate acreage for these residences to be able to handle parking.
I'm not so sure I would agree with that, but you answered the question. So how many homes are you going to have in the estate lot area?
18. 18.
Your total build out is going to be how many units again?
770.
Again?
732?
772 units.
72. And when you went through TRC, do you know if there was any school board membership available during the TRC meetings?
There was not, to our knowledge.
The reason I raise that question, I think, is probably rather obvious. It's important that they know about new development with respect to the number of estimated students that might be created as a result of developments. And I just was curious to know if they were on board. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have at this time.
All right. Just while we're kind of on that subject of the traffic, can I need a little bit of help wrapping my mind around the 2-lane choice versus the 4-lane choice. Because kind of just from layman perspective, I would think 4-lane choice, but if you can offer up some additional comments around the 2-lane versus the 4-lane.
Mr. Mayor, I just need a second to get a thorough answer for you on that, if that's okay.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes, we can definitely come back to it, or we can give you a moment to.
Just 1 second. The best answer I can give you, Mr. Mayor, is our team has gone through the TRC process and negotiated with staff on the way this part of the project would be built. 2 lanes is required to get in and out, and so it was agreed between us and staff that we would build our 2 in for the minimum access required into our area, but we would dedicate the entire 4-lane section, not only for the area that we were building, but for the rest of the northern connector on the development.
Okay. Anyone else? Sir? So next would be opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? No one wishing to speak in opposition, no need for rebuttal. So at this time, I will turn it over to the council for their deliberation. Mr. Granis.
Mr. Mayor, I think this project overall is a good project. I think it'll benefit the Clayton community. I think it's advantageous for the future of of this community. This is not the first time you've heard me being unfavorable to traffic requirements. And unfortunately, it probably won't be the last, but I do have considerations with respect to what NCDOT requires. However, I am satisfied that the developer has complied with what those requirements are. I'm also satisfied with the TIA, but my concern is going to be traffic and safety, especially at the intersection of Covered Bridge and North O'Neill, which could very conceivably be where the North Connector exits. However, as I stated, they have complied with DOC requirements, and I can't disagree with that. So I'll be voting in favor of this development this evening.
All right, anyone else? All right, if not, I'll entertain some form of motion or action. Mr. Granis.
Mr. Mayor, after considering the competent material and substantial evidence presented, including the application and materials of record, I move to approve preliminary subdivision plat application number 2021-114-SD, Ashcroft 2. This motion is based upon the following findings. One, that the preliminary subdivision is consistent with the adopted plans and policies of the town. Two, the subdivision meets all required specifications of the Town of Clayton Unified Development Code. Three, the subdivision will not be detrimental to the use or orderly development of other properties in the surrounding area and will not violate the character of existing standards for development of properties in the surrounding area. And four, the subdivision design will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid mitigate congestion within the immediate area, will provide for the unified orderly use or extension of public infrastructure, and will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or general welfare. And if approved, the applicant does meet this finding, subject to the conditions that are here in our agenda packet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adoption of the plan submitted for Ashcroft 2. Number 2020-144-SD. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, staff would request a 15-minute break, if that's in your...
That was next on my agenda. Very good. Yes, all right. Thank you. We'll now pause for a 15-minute break. call our meeting, thank you, I'd like to call our meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda will be the development agreement, Ashcroft 2.
All right, good evening. This is the developer's agreement for the Ashcroft 2 subdivision. We have previously heard the rezoning and the master plan, which were both approved before the break. So I will begin by going over the developer's agreement, and then there should be someone who will be following up in just a few minutes behind me. But I want to go ahead and get us started. So you see you have about a 111-page document before you in your packet that does say developer's agreement. And at our previous meeting, we had two different attorneys who went over what developer agreements will entail. So I'm just going to touch on some of the highlights to get us started. To begin with, as stated in my presentation, we have some of the development uses. So this is going to be the permitted uses within the subdivision. It's going to be up to 772 residential units and up to 105,000 square feet of commercial uses. Something important to note in the developer's agreement, we did require a minimum of 50,000 square feet of commercial to be constructed, because the up to 105 is the max, and we want to ensure there was at least a component that would be installed at a minimum. So there's 50,000 square feet minimum to be installed. And then you can see within the paragraph 4.5, it lists the various uses, and I did go over this briefly in the other presentation. And then we move into public facilities. So public facilities will entail sanitary sewer and water infrastructure, electric, streets, curb, gutter, sidewalks, stormwater facilities, and parks and rec facilities. As I mentioned before, the stormwater facilities, they will be private facilities under management by the developer or the homeowners association. And also, there is a section 4.7, which deals with dedication or reservation of land for public purposes. And under Exhibit F, it describes the various land and dedication for the property. Moving into...
Excuse me, Samantha.
Sure.
Let's find out we've had a complaint from the public about noise. What is that noise?
Sounds like somebody sipping.
They're sucking on a straw.
Yeah.
I hear that.
That's what I thought. I thought somebody was drinking or drinking.
That's a vibration.
Something going on in the Clayton Center?
It's airflow and vibration.
Can you check with Nader and see if the audience can hear that? And I don't want to have more complaints from the public about people breathing in the mic or rustling papers. That is definitely distracting.
They can hear it, it's very loud on the recording.
Is it very loud on the recording, Nader?
Can we
Is it an
turn the heat off and see if the fan?
Yeah, can we turn the fans off in the building to see?
May have a bad mic.
Bobby Bone?
Bad mic.
Do you have a cell phone close to your microphone?
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me, like the cellular feeding through it. Separate your cell phone from your microphone, see if it still does it.
It stopped.
No.
I'm with you, brother. I moved mine to the other side of the aisle.
Second time.
Okay.
Me and Mr. Mayor here, we can't figure it out if we don't have our phone there to see what time it is. Are we good now?
Okay, we're good. Thank you very much. Sorry for the delay.
Sorry to interrupt you.
All right. So moving into section 4.9 is the modifications. So in our code, in our UDC, we have major and minor modifications. We wanted to be sure that the developer's agreement specifically listed what is minor. So that means that can go through the TRC process and that can be improved administratively. But anything that is not listed in this section will be considered major and has to come back before the council to be heard by the council. Going into section 4.10, the recording of this document, within 14 days, it shall be recorded. And there's also lots of different legal language in here, which Chat Essig will be able to discuss in just a second. And I can move into the wastewater, if you would like to go ahead and hear about the wastewater allocation from our town engineer, Mr. Joshua Baird.
Samantha, do we have a map of the phasing up there too?
Sure.
That we can pull the numbers up? Joshua, you may want to start off with water first, just a little bit of the status, just, we don't have to beat it to death, but a little bit of the assumption here on the water that we've got.
I want my germs.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Joshua Baird, Town Engineer. As Town Manager alluded to, kick off just with water at a high level. Certainly we've had some discussions and a lot of discussions around wastewater, but water as far as storage capacity and capacity to get that as a bulk customer from the county. We're working through items to be sure that we continue to plan for that, ensure that we can get that. Those conversations are continuing to go on. Certainly something that as we continue to, as council approves development and approves more homes, so we still need to understand what that looks like and what kinds of use we're going to be looking at, ensure that we can plan and continue to have the development that we need. At a high level, if there's anything else specific, you can hit on that as far as water, but.
Well, I think there's been a lot of talk about better master planning between the county and the towns. And in the past, you guys are aware that back in September, we had one permit that got temporarily denied on a water storage issue. We're working with the county, but as it stands now, the assumption we've had throughout the process is the county will have us adequate water supply. And so in a lot of the decisions you've made and the developer in this case have made is the county is going to continue to have adequate water supply to the town. We will have the distribution system on our side to deliver it, but we must still be able to get raw water from the town at a reasonable cost, and the county has informed me, but they believe that's possible. But again, that's something we wanted to make sure you guys understand, that we are dependent on the county for our raw water supply, our potable drinking water supply. So I think the developer's aware of that, and I know we're aware of that, so make you aware.
Thank you, Town Manager. Moving into wastewater, a few numbers I can just share. I guess about a year and a half ago, council enacted a wastewater allocation policy, a scoring policy such that a development must score a certain amount of points to be able to receive that, or allocation then come to council for approval. Just to check at the staff level before those requests come to council. For this project, the project did score 105 points. That is in the packet, and so you can see that they did meet the minimum 50 points that staff then brought it to council here, requesting approval on behalf of the developer. So that is the policy. As far as the total amounts, the total amount for this project was $252,970. The project's broken down. That includes the commercial, the non-residential, the amenity center, multifamily, and the single-family homes. Obviously, as we're gearing towards and working towards a new plant, we do have that limited capacity. Staff is going to recommend to Town Council that the approval of wastewater is broken up into a schedule based on the phasing. That chart is in your packet. The chart is by phase, the type of unit, and the total number of units with each phase. And then across the top in different columns are yearly timelines in increments of 6 months. Staff has worked with the developer and negotiated what we propose to break this up such that we are not utilizing all of the remaining capacity in one chunk on this development. The development is a phased project and will be out over several years, and therefore this is what the developer would be able to pull sewer permits for. So the process is, as many of you are familiar with, but just to recap, for construction drawings, when construction drawings come in for a phase, with that are sewer extension permits and sewer permits requesting so much, requesting so many gallons be obligated associated with that phase. The way this chart and the way it's set up in the developer's agreement is that this amount of flow will become available to the applicant, to the developer, to submit a sewer permit for on the date shown at the top of the column. So it's broken down, and then at the bottom you can see the total amount for each the 6 month increments, and then a cumulative total as it goes out through June of 2024 that adds up and sums up to the total of the 252,970. With that, I'll take any questions on the wastewater from Council or Mayor.
Questions or comments for staff? Mr. Granis.
Joshua, is it possible to share with us what the phased amounts on a per gallon basis will be available to them?
The phased amount on a per gallon.
Yeah.
Across the timeline?
Yeah.
Yeah, so from the chart in June of 2021, the town would allow the developer to pull a permit for 32,750. In January of 2022, 44,125. In June of 2022, 20,625. None in January of 2023, 40,000 in June of 2023, 72,500 in January of 2024, and 42,970 in June of 2024.
What was the last one again?
42,970 in June of 2024.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
Samantha, do you want to do the entrance and egress, or you want Chad to do it, or?
Samantha Woolen, Waiver Planning Director again. I will introduce Chad Essick. He is our attorney who worked with us on this developers agreement, and he will finish the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Again, my name is Chad Essick with Horne Street Law Firm in Raleigh. Had the good fortune of working on this development agreement with the town and the developer. I believe the development agreement and total was included in the agenda packet, so you should have that. I can provide a high-level summary of that development agreement, and then to the extent there's any questions, I'm happy to address those. Obviously, I have it here with me. It's a pretty, about 111 pages of both the agreement as well as the exhibits that are incorporated into the agreement. But just generally speaking, at a high level, the development agreement is 10 years, which is what we anticipate the full build-out of the entire, as I understand, the full build-out of the entire project to be, with some cushion involved. Under the development agreement, it sets forth the number of units and maximum amount of square footage of commercial, with 772 units, 105,000 square feet of commercial, with a minimum commercial commitment of 50,000 square feet, which I believe is in phase 9 of the master plan. Just to, if you're looking at the development agreement, there's a number of exhibits attached to it. A through D are really just the property description, the survey of the property, the master plan is incorporated in total into the development agreement along with the proposed conditions as Exhibit D. Have those been reviewed yet? Sorry, I woke.
In overview, they have.
Okay.
They have.
Okay.
I think you're probably at the point you could talk about phasing in the roads and maybe some of the fee and lieu and some of those discussions. Those deeper things we negotiated.
Sure. So you'll see that, and I know that Joshua covered some of this in his comments, but Exhibit E to the development agreement is the public facilities portion of where it talks about basically 5 things that are going to be addressed in this development agreement: the sewer service and water infrastructure, the electric utilities, the streets, curb, gutter, and sidewalks, and then which would include off-site improvements that would need to be made at different phases. I believe what we've agreed to is off-site transportation improvements would need to be made at the time that I believe 400 building permits are pulled. The details of those off-site infrastructure improvements are set forth in Exhibit E2 to the development agreement. There's also Exhibit E governs stormwater and parks and rec facilities, dealing with fee and lieu for the timing for fee and lieu for sidewalk improvements along Phase 7 being at the time those phases are platted, and then the fee and lieu for, or the sidewalk infrastructure for along O'Neill Road for Phase 9 as well. Exhibit F will set forth, if you in your packet, the land dedication that'll be a part of this development agreement. You'll see that there'll be a 30-foot easement along the Neuse River to Covered Bridge Road along, I believe that's up along Phase 8 and 7, in the northern portion of that. There's also the 110-foot right-of-way that will be dedicated in connection with the northern connector that you see running through the middle of the phasing plan, dedication of that right-of-way, and then also additional right-of-way being dedicated along O'Neill Road for a 55-foot right-of-way from center line for roadway expansion or along O'Neill Road. You'll see in Exhibit G to the development agreement is the phasing plan or phasing schedule. Really, it just tracks what Joshua just talked about as far as the wastewater capacity and phasing the project in a way that ensures that there's adequate wastewater capacity as the project develops. Exhibit H to the developers agreement is all of the access easements that will be needed from both the existing property owners and the developer. So there's 4 different easements in there as a part of that for access along from but the access agreements will provide easements from O'Neill Road, where that arrow is, where it says access point, along the existing utility power line in a west to east direction, and then up to our wastewater treatment property. So all of those easements are required to be executed in connection with the development agreement, contemporaneously with the development agreement, so that those can be in place for the access that will be needed to for the construction associated with the wastewater facility. So those easements are attached as exhibits to the development agreement and will be executed in connection with the development agreement, assuming it is approved.
And I'll add that all those easements, I believe the developer will report they're all signed, the primary developer will say they're all signed for those easements at this point. And I think everybody has signed the development agreement. You guys will talk about it, except one property owner with a small piece up in the upper corner, but I believe everything's been signed from the other property owners as well, Chad. So,
great.
Well, it's hard today to get that done. So,
it's been a lot of work involved, but that's a high, again, I don't want to get down too far in the weeds on this. I mean, it's a long document and a lot of information, and a lot of the specifics are set forth in some of the exhibits, especially Exhibit E. I'm happy to answer any questions. If they're too specific, I'll probably have to defer to staff since they're a little bit more detailed on some of the specifics, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
Yes, I got some. Talking about the easements, the temporary easement. Question for you on this. I'm not wild about signing an agreement with the property owners for development. That's just how I am. I'm fine with signing this agreement between the town of Clayton and Ashcroft. So with that being said, until they outright own the land, because they don't own the land yet, and we are in need of putting a sewer plant in yesterday, we're signing this agreement to put an access agreement, a temporary access to the sewer plant on these people's property. Now, and I know this is not going to happen, but I want to make sure, it's always just in case, that the town of Clayton, if Ashcroft decides they're not going to do this and head south, who's responsible for the damages on these people's property if they leave town? Until they own the land now. Now, if they own the land outright, I'm not worried about it. But you've got 3 properties here, people that I've known all my life, and I just don't want to make sure they get hurt, and I don't want to make sure the town don't get hurt. So who makes who whole?
Let me look back for a second. I think we addressed that in the property owners' easements, the individual property owners.
Toby may have an answer.
Can they answer that? Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Toby Coleman. I'm an attorney with Smith Anderson, 150 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. The answer to your question is that as part of the easements that Chad was flipping through, what the easements say is that if there's no road or parking lot or other thing that's built as part of the development in the easement area, then once the town no longer needs the access easement, then the town will basically put it back as to where it was.
I understand that. What I'm saying is, like, tomorrow we go start turning dirt.
Right.
And all of a sudden Ashcroft says, oh, we're not going to do the project, we're out. We've got dirt turned on these people's property. So that you're saying the town has to put that back right?
So the town, so as I understand it, and again, I don't want to step out of turn from what Chad said, but so the town needs to build this thing no matter what, and the town needs access no matter what. And so this thing the dirt needs to get turned regardless of whether Ashcroft goes in or not.
Right.
In the unlikely event that something happens between now and when these contracts close.
Right.
The easements are recorded. That was part of what the importance of was getting the easements signed. And so if that happens and these folks, unfortunately, the contracts don't get done, then, and the ownership is retained, then what happens is once the town is complete, which is estimated to be in December 2023, the road gets
put back.
The road gets put back.
Yeah, I got that.
And I don't know if I apologize if I'm not answering your question.
Yeah, I know there's just been some talk around town that there's going to be damages made with us putting a road in on that easement. And if something would happen, who would pay for the damages?
What damages are you talking about?
Well, the homeowner or the property owners consider once you turn dirt on their land, there's damage done on their land. And I get that.
So yeah, just to follow up on Toby's, I knew we addressed this, but in the easements for those individual property owners, what we have provided for, like Toby said, again, to the extent that Ashcroft goes away and doesn't, and these access easements line up in portion with a lot of those permanent roads that are going to go in. So what we have said in the agreements is that to the extent Ashcroft goes away and there is no development, that those access areas where we have put those roads will be restored to their similar condition. In addition to that, I will note that in the development agreement, we've also noted that to the extent the developer does not move forward with purchasing this land and developing it, these property owners will not be responsible for the obligations within the development agreement that are currently on the land.
Okay. Yeah. So we've tried, Councilman, we've tried the best of our knowledge to protect them. I don't think there's any way to protect them 100% unless the developer closes. When the developer closes, it's primary developer, it's a moot point.
That's right.
But I think what we've tried to do, and it's probably been some contention about access to that road and keeping it aligned with the current electrical right-of-way. For good or bad, we own we are in the last 5 feet of that easement, so we've stayed 30 feet right adjacent to it. And so I think our hope has been that if something would happen to collapse the deal, that those private property owners are whole, but that when we restore it, it's pretty close to the nature of something adjacent to a power line versus something going right through the middle of their property. And right or wrong, that's just what we've assumed to try to keep it down that power easement.
So let me ask you this then. We don't necessarily have to have this easement. Am I correct? If something would happen, because we could go through Ashcroft 1, am I correct?
Yes, there were five options that we looked at in the environmental assessment. One of those options was going through Ashcroft 1. We elected not to do that because it was a subdivision. We have gone through Ashcroft 1 before already when we remediated the firing range.
And the power plant.
Yes, and at this point, I think that we have tried to stay, this option is a little bit more expensive for us to maintain and keep that road open, but we made the decision, if we could get this deal done, that this was a better option for everybody if we could stay down that power easement.
I just don't want us to get behind no further than we already are on this wastewater treatment plant, and we're already a month behind.
We're about a quarter behind now, and again, this deal, we tried to first get it in here in December. We didn't happen, and developer tried to move it up into February, and we couldn't get it worked out, but we're here now, and I think we've got it right on the threshold to get our dirt turning. So
we have no reason to slow down at any reason whatsoever as of tonight if we pass this.
That is correct. Okay. This will cut us free to go, and to whatever extent we can, with that development agreement, we will work as a town to y'all's instruction to make sure everybody's whole if something does go bad. But right now, we think the probability is in our favor, so we're ready to go.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? No further questions? Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak during the public hearing on this matter? All right, if not, I'll close the public hearing and I'll turn it over to council for deliberation.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2021-03-02.
Second. We have a motion and a second for the adoption of the ordinance. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
We got another one. And we have another one to do here.
Yes, wastewater.
Yeah. You want me to?
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we adopt resolution 2021-12. Second.
Motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2021-12, wastewater allocation. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to old business, starting with land acquisition.
Okay, this will probably be made in a motion at a future date. What I've learned, there's several pieces of land, I think if we've told you guys as part of the water reclamation project that will have to probably be condemned. I was told earlier, just a little while ago, that we are very close to negotiating a piece I thought we might need it tonight. And I think with this development agreement, we don't need to do anything in that area either. So this, if I could, Mr. Mayor, just let me bring this up at a future date on a different piece of land on a future date.
All right.
So no action here.
All right. We'll just use that for an update.
Yep.
And we'll look forward to hearing back from you at a later date.
Okay.
All right. Up next is the Old Town Hall update.
Okay, so I guess this agreement goes back to 2017, before my time. I think several of you were on the board when we went with this as a private development agreement with a third party. That party had some trouble among the partners, I should say. One of those partners is here, Mr. Reed Smith. They had trouble. We did grant them at the time, Mr. David DeYoung was with the town, and he granted them a 6-month extension. But for probably roughly about a year, they have been working through this from a legal perspective. And Mr. Smith can tell you more about that if you need to hear it. What I've asked Mr. Smith repeatedly since I've been, not repeatedly, I don't mean that in a negative way, but we have had a conversation probably about every 6 weeks about when can we get this resolved. And he has worked very patiently, I could say, with me, and diligently to get this resolved with his old partner. He now informs me that they have an agreement where he could take control of that partnership. There would be some additional conditions that he may need and some reworking of the current agreement that we may need, which brings us to a crossroads. I would say, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say default, but I'll say default for the contract, depending on how we look at things, because we are long overdue with the current conditions. I would call it probably out of compliance. And Jim, if you step in there, if that's the right term, I'll say out of compliance tonight, which would render you guys to make a decision of whether you would like to renegotiate some of those terms of that agreement with the current developer, or that you want to take the property back. And so this is an information item, one that we will probably need to talk about in more detail as a council, probably in closed session first, and then for the public debate later. And it's something we may do at the retreat next week if we go into a closed session, since we'll have to public notice that event anyway. So that is my update. And Jim, if there's anything I've said from a legal standpoint that's not right, let me know. But you've reviewed this agreement as well in the last couple of days, and any of your thoughts on this?
No, I think you've covered it. It's right for some decision, amendment, renegotiation.
Yep. And I just add, Reed doesn't have to speak, but he's been very cooperative, and I appreciate him doing that. And this isn't the most comfortable situation for him, but he has pledged to finish this project off if that's what we decide as a council, subject to us working on some of the fine terms if that's what we need to do. Fair enough, Mr. Smith? Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, that's all I've got on that one.
All right, questions or comments? Thank you for the update. That's been a huge citizen inquiry for several months now, so I'm glad to get some information on the record for citizens to know what's going on with the Old Town Hall. All right, up next is the LAP grant update.
Joshua Baird, Town Engineer. Quick update on the LAP program, LAP, Locally Administered Projects Program through our local MPO, Campo. We've talked about it some in the past. We've got projects such as Sam's Branch Greenway, some items around Front Street, a mechanism to distribute federal transportation dollars for bike, ped, roadway, and transit projects. We came to you back in the fall to request approval to submit 2 projects to the federal fiscal year 22 round of funding. That funding and information has came out. That particular round, I'm going to run through just some quick numbers here. The The total programming was $25 million, and that was broken up into $16 million in roadway projects, $7.47 million in bike ped projects, and $1.53 million in transit projects. The two projects that we requested approval from Town Council to submit on were the Northern Connector, discussed some previously here, from O'Neill over to 42 East at Glen Laurel. That roadway, I believe it's about 2.33 miles is the total segment from O'Neill to 42 East. And the second one was NC 42 East, Mountains to Sea Greenway, a trail extension basically along 42 East from Front Street down towards Glen Laurel. That was a greenway pedestrian project. For both of those, we submitted for requesting money for design. We did not request money for right-of-way or construction on either of those. Unfortunately, neither project scored high enough to receive funding. I have a list here. This is it's kind of tough to see here, but a list of the roadway projects that did receive funding. The Northern Connector scored relatively low. If you do look, the local match does play a significant role into that, and you see we had only put 20% in. A lot of the projects that did get funded were higher matches. You've got 40% in there, 30, even 55% on one of them. So certainly the local match does affect the scoring. Also to note, the total project and the total cost of that project, we were thinking somewhere in the 37 million range, which is over the entire project's, the total lab programming of 25 million. A couple of things to note, it doesn't show in here, but many of these projects were submitting for construction only. So you get higher points, and there's some phase points in there for going for construction. Many of these are just for construction or potentially right-of-way and construction. We did not submit for construction of those, including the Greenway. The way the program is set up, you are to get to, or the expectation is that you get to that phase within the federal fiscal year. We did not feel like we could get to construction on either of those in the federal fiscal year. So I'll show that is for the roadway there. And then this here is on the bike ped. Again, that total 6.7 that was into the bike ped. The Greenway extension did score. It scored relatively well, except for the fact that we only requested design money, and we only put in 20%. I think if we had requested construction money, also a larger match, I think that project would have had a good chance of getting funded. However, again, we as staff did not feel like we could get to construction as the program expects within the fiscal year. So moving forward, certainly as we look to do other projects and as we look to submit other projects to LAP, alternatives could be that we commit to larger matches other than the minimum 20% that's required. And also there could be some opportunities that the town fund design or fund right away and get the project ready for construction. And then there's a much better chance that we will be able to get some construction funding on some of these larger projects. That's kind of tough to see, but I do just want to hit on those two projects specifically. The Northern Connector, and not get into all the details, but the Northern Connector has been submitted into the state's prioritization model spot. We're on 6.0. That's a process that goes into the state's STIP, which is updated every 2 years. So the Northern Connector has been submitted. This is just kind of a schedule of where everything is at with spot 6.0 right now. And again, that's really tough to see. So I just kind of jumped to the end where the draft STIP for 20, let's see here, I believe it is 23 through 32 is supposed to be released in May of 2022. So once we go through the process, I think we will have some idea of how the Northern Connector scores out if it works its way into STIP or not. As far as the Greenway extension, if you recall, that project was in the STIP. It's in the later 5 years, kind of more in that developmental phase. It's not in that first 5 programming. That project originally, right-of-way, was anticipated 2027 with construction in 2028. So again, kind of seeing how the prioritization and STIP plays out, we'll see if that changes and if that makes it more into the programming phase as an actual project. And then we can also look at additional submittals in the future. So Very high level, very quick kind of overview of the LAP projects and kind of where those two projects stand as far as the STIP. Certainly, as things continue to move as far as the prioritization process, we can bring back some other updates on those two projects. And I believe that's all I have on those. If there's questions, happy to take them.
Yeah. Great. Questions or comments? Mr. Granis?
I just want to thank Joshua for his work on this, and prior to Joshua, David DeYoung was in the same position. And between the two of you, I think you guys have done a really great job. When I look back over the last 10 or so years that I have been on the executive Campo board, Clayton has scored well, and Clayton has received an awful lot of LAP money and some STIP money as well to get us to where we are today with a lot of our trails and also a lot of our road improvements. So I just want to commend you and your predecessor for doing what you've done to get us to where we are. And I certainly look forward to more successful LAP and STIP projects. And I have every confidence in the world that we're going to achieve that. So, but thank you very much for your work.
Anyone else?
Comment I'd make, just heads up, because I agree with everything Councilman Granis said about staff and what Josh was done. We've done a great job. What is becoming clear to staff, though, is the LAP program's not going to be able to support the demand we're going to have from the northern connector all the way around from Shotwell to 70 toward Raleigh. And that's about a $40 million, he said 37, but it's by the time inflation catches, it's going to be 40 million just northern connector. And I think tonight we got the right of way for that, but it's still a whole lot of money for this town, and we're not really geared with our general fund CIP to pay for that. So we've really got to get a more comprehensive transportation strategy together. I know today we met with developers of Highgate, which was doing some of the projects, some of the other TIA type things, but we've got a very spot TIA type project and thousands of homes coming up along this corridor that'll be done in 10 years. And right now we're probably 15 or 20 years out on the DOT priority list. So we're going to have to work on that prioritization a little bit more. We're going to have another Cleveland type thing going on. So we just need to be diligent. I don't think it's among us right now, but we got to keep having Joshua do the good hard work he's doing and the rest of the staff to make sure we're really getting a real transportation program for the town of Clayton. So thank you, Joshua.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to echo your sentiments, JD, and the reason I say that is this is speculation on my part, but I feel strongly that NCDOT is going to really push more and more towards municipalities taking a much larger active or proactive role as far as costs are involved with respect to transportation. And this is something that I think this municipality needs to seriously take into consideration and try to develop plans for the future in lieu of what NCDOT might very well do.
Thank you.
All right, up next under new business is the Safer Grants.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Liz Jernigan, Fire Department Administrative Coordinator. I'm here to talk to you about SAFER Grant. As you know, SAFER is FEMA's, firefighter hiring opportunity. In the past, we've been very successful with this. Most recently in 2019, we received the largest award in the state, second largest award in the state, and that was very exciting. But what is more exciting about this opportunity is that FEMA is going to fund it at 100% for the entire 36-month period of performance with no cost share. So that's a huge opportunity for us. The application period closes on March the 12th, and so I'm here requesting your approval to apply for 9 firefighters to staff our upcoming ladder truck.
Awesome. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. That was easy.
That's the way we like it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is our Wellness and Safety Kickoff.
I might need help finding my thing here. It's not half Spanish yet. It's under March 1. Business. There we are. I promise you, it is not a long slideshow. Jeffra Patton, Wellness and Safety Manager for the town of Clayton. I'm here to announce that today was a kickoff for our Safety Initiative 2021. It's entitled Fundamentals of Safety Leadership, and I left a handy dandy trifold at your desk tonight to give you an overview of what it is. As I said, today we did our kickoff where we are encouraging from all departments across the town to take a commitment, a renewed commitment to safety, and to do that through the National Safety Council Safe at Work Pledge. We have been a member of the National Safety Council for a couple decades now, so I wanted to take advantage of that membership because it offers us great opportunities. Also, we will focus on a monthly building block safety topic where it comes out monthly, and across the town, all departments will focus on that one message. And then also, be a safety leader. Safety leaders exist in all areas of the town of Clayton. And tonight I'm here to ask the council and the mayor to join us in becoming a safety leader and join our initiative. You will find information about how to take that Safe at Work pledge at the end of my presentation, and it's just a 3-step pledge in renewing your commitment to safety. Sorry about that. Also, our monthly building blocks will focus on a specific topic each month. It'll be promoted and reinforced throughout the organization, as I stated earlier. Educational and training resources will be provided to the department heads, and from there they will funnel that information down through their teams, promoting and reinforcing that building block. Also, we will focus on skills and skill sets of a safety leader, and it's lead by example, engage and empower our team members, actively listening, develop team members by teaching, coaching, and feedback, and then recognize for a job well done. This will be our organizational goals. It'll start safety beyond compliance, reaching even further than what we've already done. Prepare, protect the safety and security of the organization as we go through the challenges that we face, and then increase the level of engagement with the leaders and their teams. Cultivate a culture of caring, and this will be done through active leadership, continued training and competency, emphasizing positive behaviors, risk management, and maintaining a balance between the job that needs to be done and the safety of our employees. So again, I ask for your commitment tonight to become a safety leader. So I encourage you to use your water bottles here, walk around and show the town of Clayton and the employees that you're committed. I left you yours over here on the table.
Okay,
don't be
good.
jealous.
All right, good.
Everyone gets one, so pick them up, and I'm excited for you to join us in this. Thank you.
That's awesome. Great work.
Jeffra's done a great job, and I think when I came here, I saw a lot of things that we could just improve on safety-wise, and Jeffra said the same thing. And I think the one thing that she and I both agree on as much as anything is our department managers it's got to start from the top, and it's got to be part of our culture from there. And so she's done a great job. We've taken our COVID B team, which was all our department managers, and now that's rechartered as both our wellness and safety leadership team as well as our COVID B team. And so truly, we're looking for our leadership to be the leaders in safety. And I know a number of y'all work in corporate environments and industrial operations. It has to start there. It can't start anywhere else, but really at the top and be driven down the importance of it. So I thank Jeffra. She's done a great job, and I'm glad that I got here and we're working on this safety team together. So thank you, Jeffra.
To that, JD, I appreciate your support because that's very important. He's been behind, he's implemented ideas. We've worked together to come up with a better idea, and then given me the okay and the resources to move ahead. And that's exciting for me. It fires the passion that I have for safety and wellness. So I want to thank you, JD.
Awesome. All right, up next is staff reports, beginning with the manager.
4 things, and I'll start with my people moment tonight. I want to thank and recognize Kathy Marasini, if she's still here. Yes, she is, right over there. Wait a minute, we found you on the web, Kathy. In 2 weeks, we'll be doing another introduction, which is our new permanent communications director, PIO person at this chamber. So I want to take this night to thank you, Kathy, for all you've done. You're not going away. You're going to continue on kind of in a backup role, but her grandchild is on the way, and she's willing to get back to the Clayton Center. And but she still wants to do this. This is your passion. But I could not have done it without her. She's been through a lot of big, stressful times with me, and we've both done a lot of worrying and coaching and talking to each other about how to play strategy. And so I really appreciate her and want to give this time just to give her a hand and a round of applause for all she's done so far and will continue to do for us. So thank you, Kathy.
I'm going to stand up, but you got to promise that you're going to continue.
She's not getting away. She's just repurposing, but thank you.
Very cool.
Second end game with the electric. She's not here tonight, but she's going to have some good news. The main message with electric tonight is, we've talked about the electric meters a few weeks ago. The good news is our complaints have gone down. The issues are still there. We've found some things we've done wrong, and we've also got some very positive feedback from some of our customers. But one of the things I can share tonight is they are using the portal, and we've gotten very positive responses for people that are signed up on the portal, the AMI, which is why we got it, and saying, yeah, we can see it. When we're taking too hot of showers or using too much power, we see our bills go up. And then by using the portal, we see them go down. So we have a better way of predicting when we're using too much power or not. So just a reminder that information is on the website, and Kathy and I can get you more, but sign up for the portal. It's great for both electric and water use for people to see that. Our police investigation is now behind us. At least this week it will be behind us as far as the formality goes. And I want to talk about some of the improvements that we're currently making. And I want to get some of the numbers right when I give you this next little piece that I'll give you. Right now, as far as our top 2 types of crime, by far and away, anything else is property crime and theft. Burglary is next. So we're blessed in Clayton without not having a lot of violent crime. That's not to say that it's a tumultuous world we live in, but right now those are the kind of crime that we have and that dominates our mix. One of the things that we've done that Greg and I talked about getting our police force kind of directed at what we do is how can we do better stuff and more stuff that's aligned with the type of crime we got. And Greg, I'll show that at a distance, but that is our new, as far as I know, maybe the first one in the county, but our crime scene investigation van. So we purchased one of those several months ago, and we've got it all dressed up and in the Clayton Comet blue and white, and we're looking at filling that out. But really, where our investigators, our detectives can go out in the field and look at things without having to bring everything back to the office and really work a crime scene from the field. So I'm really happy for that, and I think it's one of the many things I'll be sharing, Greg and I, with what we're doing in the police department. But really excited about that particular aspect of how Chief Tard is changing the culture of our police department and aiming at the types of crime that we need to be addressing. The last thing I'll say is symbolism means a lot, and I guess you guys probably don't even register because it doesn't seem like it, but it's been 6 months ago. Tonight is my 6-month anniversary with the town in the manager role. This weekend was also my 56th birthday. And so one of the things I told my mom when she asked me, why are you going to do that crazy job? You don't need to do that in your life. Is I say I need to make it 6 months. I'll get to my birthday and we'll see where we're at. Maybe we'll have done a lot of good things by then. So I want to thank you guys tonight. It is, it's rare you get the opportunity to use your time and talents in the place you call home. And I think you guys know I've tried to push this responsibility off to somebody else last August. But you guys wanted me, this council wanted me, and I really appreciate that because it gave me the time. I considered it my duty at the time, even though it wasn't probably the thing I wanted to do. But you gave me the time, the chance to work here in my home. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I realized that we weren't going to get all the work done that we needed to get done. And you guys came back and hired me really in the full-time role in January, which I think it did two things. One, it gave some finality to be a lame duck in some of the crisis we were facing and some of the things we were doing. It really helped those things get behind us. I believe that. That decision, among anything, really helped us in January and February. And I think it also paved the way to keep people like Chief Tard and our new attorney, Jim Cawley, but also to bring people like Dolores on and other key hires we're making. So I think that really bridged the gap. But I feel a lot like I'm not finished, but I do think from a symbolic standpoint, that hard work I had to do in the first 6 months is done. And I do, while we're all together, I did want to say a thank you for that on the 6-month anniversary. So thank you. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So we're not getting any scoop on who our new PIO is? I mean, like I served on the committee with you, but like after we interviewed, I haven't heard anything from you, so I don't know who you chose or anything.
Shelton from the Johnston County Public Information Officer. We have interviewed cities and counties around here. We did, Mr. Mayor, you were part of that process. I think we talked to probably seven candidates in detailed interview, and a lot of pluses and minuses, but we were able to find somebody that has good local ties, that has really proven himself, and we have not announced that officially yet out there in the media, but I think he has resigned and he will be coming on March the 15th.
Good choice. Thank you for the update. All right, Town Attorney.
No report tonight.
Thank you, sir. Town Clerk.
No reports, thank you.
Any other staff? All right, if not, I'll open the floor for informal discussion and public comment. Anyone wish to speak? All right, if not, I'll turn it over to council for comments. Mr. Holder.
First meeting in January, we hired JD as our town manager. We left one item unsettled, and that was the ordinance requiring him to live within the town of Clayton. Consulting our attorney, knowing that we need JD to spend 100% of his time on town issues in the situation we're in, knowing we don't need him to be out trying to find a place to move to. Also recognizing that the inquiries we've had about him feeling the effects of decisions he made. JD does not make decisions on the tax rate, power, water, and sewer rates. All he does is recommend. Those decisions come to this council the 5 voting members of this council. We're the ones that make those decisions, not JD. Therefore, I'm recommending we waiver his requirement to live within the town of Clayton for the term of his being our town manager.
Is that a motion?
Motion.
Well, I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion to waiver the residency requirement for the manager for the town of Clayton.
For the present town manager. Okay. For JD only.
So we have a motion to waive, and I would just defer to the attorney because the last couple of weeks, the word waiver has been all in everything we've talked about, and come to find out they're basically illegal. So just for clarification, is this waiving this legal?
In this case, I think you, the council, have the authority to change the ordinance. So I think you would have the authority to defer a residency requirement. One of the suggestions I had made in amending that particular ordinance was to include language that would allow a waiver. So
Can you speak up? I'm not getting you.
His mic's not on, I don't believe.
Is this mic on? As loud as it can go?
There it goes. The green light's on, but I don't hear nothing.
Yeah, green light's on. Can you hear me? One of the suggestions I had made early on about how to address the ordinance itself was to include language that allowed a waiver. So I think the council's got the authority to waive that. They have the authority to change the ordinance. They have the authority to waive that ordinance.
All right. So we have the authority, the town council has the authority to waive that ordinance or to change the ordinance.
Correct.
And the motion is to waive the residency requirement.
Yes.
For the manager. Who indeed?
I understood, Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I understood the motion to be to waive it for this manager.
Can we do that?
Just clarification.
So specifically, let's waive the requirement for this specific manager for the residency requirement of Clayton. And, this comes as a surprise to me. I've had no knowledge this was coming before us this evening. I think your statement's very true. It is indeed the board of the town of Clayton that sets rates, tax rates, all of it. But it also comes as a recommendation from management. And there again, this ordinance has been in effect for over 40 years. And I think that I don't think it sets a very good example for Clayton, for our citizens to waive or to do away with for one particular person. And, while I agree his efforts and concentrations have to be on the goals and the vision of the town of Clayton, I think any reasonable person would maintain and find time to adequately find a place to live in Clayton. So I don't think that I'm buying into so much the comment that it would take too much time away from work for him to have to find somewhere to live. But, I don't think this is the right path for Clayton. And and the citizens are not going to think this is the right path for Clayton either.
Well,
but hold on, I'm not done. I have the floor.
No, go for it.
So it's unfortunate that that's how this has played out. And it's unfortunate that, we have this long-standing rule ever since Clayton went under the council manager form of government that we don't even have a manager who's willing to work this out with us. I think that's the most sad part, regardless of the great efforts and strides over the last 6 months to still not say, hey, this has been a part of Clayton since Clayton took on this form of government, and I'll see what I can do to work it out. Not to even have that is, says a lot about character and quality. Mr. Bunn?
I'm glad you brought this up tonight, Art, because I've been thinking about it, and I'm glad we got a motion on the floor now. But I have been thinking about this. When I got on the council, and I'm going to talk about ordinances for a few minutes. There was an ordinance that I fought for that was enacted in 1996 for the residents of Clayton, and I bet 90% of them don't even know this was in play. But there was an ordinance in the sewer area. If your sewer line got damaged in the street of Clayton, you, the resident, was responsible for it. It could cost you up to $2,000 to get that fixed. Everybody that lives in Clayton, I've lived here near 60 years, I always thought, if my sewer line broke in the street, it was the town of Clayton. There was an ordinance in 1996 placed here from this council to charge the residents whatever the town manager wanted to charge them to fix their sewer line in the street. That was an ordinance. We change ordinances all the time. It's a moving document. It outdates itself all the time. We change ordinances all the time. We waiver documents, or we waiver ordinances. We do away with ordinances. This is one that was done in 1974 when there was no ETJ. When you said the town of Clayton in 1974 with 4,000 friggin' residents, it was the city limits. Since then, we have enacted an ETJ. We now take those ETJ residents and put them on every stinking board that we have that makes most important decisions in this chamber. Why do we do that? Because we changed ordinances. This ordinance is so outdated it should be done away with. Or we should have revised this ordinance where the town manager can live in the city limits or the ETJ. Some residents complain, oh, he needs to pay taxes. Well, you know what? If we ask him to move to Clayton tonight, he will move to Clayton and rent a house. He will not be paying taxes. Renters do not pay property taxes.
That's okay. He's still abiding by the ordinance that was set forth in the town of Clayton when we took on the council manager form of government.
And that was in 1974.
And, you know, you guys are always looking for comps and what are other cities and towns done. But again, you haven't done your homework to find out who has remodeled their ordinance in the last 5 years, 10 years, 15, 40 years, you know. I'm not here to argue. It's a very poor decision.
That's your opinion, Mr. Mayor.
I apologize.
That's your opinion, okay?
Yes. And as the head elected official for the town of Clayton, I can tell you it is the opinion of many, many voting citizens. All right. We have a motion and a second to waive the residential requirement for the town manager of Clayton, specifically J.D. Solomon, effective immediately. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion carries. Anything else? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Good night.